Lisa Simmons, who is the Clinical Implementation Manager at Orca Health, which is a company which reviews health and care apps. And before that, she was a highly specialised speech and language therapist within the NHS and with private clients. So she's going to have lots to talk to us about the healthcare sector and careers in the NHS. So hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jen. Hi, everybody.
Hi. So can you just talk to us a little bit about what you studied at school, what you did for your GCSEs, A-levels, and how that's brought you through to your current position?
Yeah, so I went to Hesketh Fletcher High School, which is now Atherton Community School. And for my options, I chose to do music because it was something that I enjoyed, and I felt that I kind of had a bit of a head start with that. So I think that's quite an important thing to think about. I also then chose history because I was really interested in history and I enjoyed the topic before options. And then just obviously the general things, I really enjoyed science, but obviously we did, that was essential anyway, but we did double science back then. So we did all three, biology, physics and chemistry, but was classed as a double award. But I really enjoyed science. English was probably my favourite subject though. Absolutely loved English, literature and language. When I was at school and choosing options, I actually was really interested in either being a vet or a lawyer. And I am neither of those things. But I tried not to focus too much on what my future career might be and rather things that I enjoyed, because I generally found that I was better at things I enjoyed because I put more into them, more effort into them, so got more out of them. So yes, at GCSE, that's what I did. I languages, I did German. I chose not to take a second language at the time, but I did learn French for the first 3 years as well, but don't ask me to speak any. So yeah, that's what I did. And then when I finished my GCSEs, I then again decided to kind of go along the route of what I really enjoyed. So I chose English. I went to Lee College and chose English combined, so language and literature together, biology and music, and also did chemistry at the time as well, but I dropped chemistry after the first year. So I had a really interesting combination of A-levels that didn't really kind of seem to sit that well with many careers, but then I enjoyed English so much that I went on to do English at Lancaster University for my first degree. So yes, we did English language, and then did that, left in 2003, but then didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life at that point. Still felt like I was too young to know what my career was going to be. So I just kind of did a few different jobs, ended up in kind of a sales executive and buyer role, did a bit of temping and things like that, and then decided to have a break, do a bit of traveling, and then decided that I would retrain. So in 2006, I think it was, I went to retrain, so do a full degree again, another undergraduate degree, which the speech therapy degrees are normally 3 or 4 years. Mine was 3.5 years. It was Manchester Metropolitan University, and train as a speech and language therapist. And that's how I kind of, my pathway led to that. I think actually for speech and language therapy, the GCSEs and A-levels that I chose and my first degree all led really well into that career path. English language, brilliant for speech and language therapy. Biology, because you have to learn all about the human body, and you do a whole biology course throughout speech and language therapy, really in detail, biology and physiology. And I think music's just really good because it kind of trains the ear a little bit, and I've got to be really precise about what I'm hearing when people are talking and things like that for transcription. So I think all that kind of background really led quite well into a career in speech and language therapy.
Okay. And what did you have to do then? It's like once you were qualified, What was your job like? What did you do every day?
So when you train to be speech and language therapist, you're classed as an allied health professional. I don't know if that's an interesting thing, because not a lot of people have heard of AHPs. It covers a broad range of professionals. So you have speech and language therapy, you have occupational therapists, you have physiotherapists, you have paramedics, you have dietitians, you have music therapists. There's a whole bunch of professions that come under the umbrella of AHPs. So it's an interesting career because all of them require a lot of training, mostly undergraduate degrees, or you can do some quite intense postgraduate training after you've done an initial degree. And generally, as part of your degree, you'll do a lot of kind of placements and on-the-job training. So you'll do intense lectures in university, and then you'll also have kind of either day release placements or 4-day-a-week placements and block placements, and you do a lot of practicing to be a therapist or whatever it is. So then hopefully you can kind of understand what direction you want to go in a little bit more. So with speech and language therapy, there is a massive range of clinical areas that you can work in. I mean, the biggest division being whether you're going to work with adults or children. So I decided I was going to go down the paediatric route initially. So I then applied for some paediatric roles. So when you come out of your degree, you then look for a newly qualified therapist role. You're classed as a band 5 therapist at that point. And then for your first year or two, you'll do a lot of learning, becoming a bit more specialist, and you'll be supported along the way within, if it's an NHS role, by the NHS, they'll support you to becoming more specialist in your role, and you'll have a lot of support, mentoring, hopefully. So when I started my role, I was in Bolton, working with paediatrics, with children. I did a very varied role. I worked in community clinics. So that meant that parents would bring their children along, and I would assess them, diagnose them, and give treatment if appropriate. I worked with children that were deaf and had hearing impairment. So that was a more specialist role. I worked in a complex needs school for children with severe and complex learning needs. And just kind of develop my skills along the way after that.
Cool. Okay. And then how did you make the change then now to work for Arca Health?
So I worked as a specialist in hearing impairment and deafness, and I particularly enjoyed that part of my role, and I developed that further to become a highly specialist speech and language therapist. Eventually working out of Alder Hey for children across a large footprint, a large region, with children from birth actually up to adults with a range of different hearing impairments and deafness and things like that. So that was really interesting. But what I actually started to realise was that other parts of my job were actually becoming really interesting to me. So managing projects, meeting people, understanding how digital health technology can improve healthcare. So how can we actually deliver healthcare more remotely? How can we support people to access healthcare in different ways? And then I was just kind of looking around. I was on LinkedIn actually, looking around, browsing, and this job popped up with Arca Health. It was a project management role, trying to support healthcare professionals, frontline staff, working with clients such as clinical commissioning groups who buy our products to help them roll them out and activate their healthcare professionals and populations to understand digital health and you use it effectively. So I went for that job, and they were looking for somebody with a clinical background, and I got the job.
And do you find there's a big difference then working between sort of in private industry and in the health service? So there's some big differences.
There's a really big difference. I mean, Arca's when I started, it was a much smaller company. I've been there for over 2 years now, and it's massively growing. But working in the NHS, it's such a massive organisation. So you become very, just within your very small team. Whereas Arca is a smaller, growing company. You kind of hope, feel more a part the company and understanding the growth and the values and how that company's vision is going to hopefully have an impact on people moving forward and in the future. And you kind of get a bit more excited about that because you're involved in something that you can see becoming bigger and bigger, and hoping to bring your skills and knowledge along the way to contribute to its success. Whereas I suppose when you work in the NHS, it's more focusing on each particular individual patient that you're working with. So it's a very different feel, but you still feel like you're helping to make a difference working for a company like Orca, because they're helping to make access to healthcare different and kind of bring it in more into that, you know, current times where people are working remotely, people are at home but want to access healthcare that fits in and suits their needs a little bit better.
Cool. So you talked then about your job being rewarding. What's probably the most proud you've ever been at work? What you've achieved?
That's a really tricky question. I would say that I was asked to go. I'll talk about my current job at Orca. I was asked to go and speak at a conference in London, and was completely out of my depth. I wasn't feeling like I was the right person to deliver this presentation, but I kind of thought I'm going to go and do it, and I'm going to get this experience. It'll be a really positive thing. So I went to deliver this presentation at this conference. You know, quite a lot of people there. Quite a lot of people are extremely knowledgeable about their areas, and I'm stood up there, and then I'm on a panel where I'm answering questions and things. And I think that was a really proud moment because it went really well. I got a lot of really positive feedback, and I think it was a really important thing to do, to kind of step out of my comfort zone and go and deliver this, and then kind of get that kind of feeling of being proud of myself afterwards. That was a really great experience.
There's a lot of kind of theory, isn't there, that if you're not pushing yourself and you're not putting yourself into that area where you're uncomfortable, then you're not growing. That's where growth happens, when you're in that section where you're feeling uncomfortable. Exactly. So just to kind of wrap that up then, what would you suggest to somebody who was interested in getting into a career in healthcare in the future? What would you suggest for them to think about now at the sort of this GCSE stage of the career?
I mean, there's different ways to go in. So I kind of talked about how I embrace subjects that I enjoyed, because you're often going to get the most out of them. It's important to know what kind of qualifications you're going to need to access certain careers. If you're going to go down a really medical route, like, you know, being a doctor, then there are definitely specific qualifications you need. But if you're thinking more along the lines of an AHP, so a dietitian or a speech and language therapist or something like that, then actually maybe embracing what you love and enjoy can help you get the most out of it. But also thinking about what experiences you can do along the way to gather experience, that when you go into this, you've got more life experience behind you, because you spat out the other end of a degree with lots of knowledge and very little life experience. And actually that's really important to a first job, is to understand the world and really kind of be able to relate to people and speak to people, understand patients, those kind of things. So it's trying to get that really good balance of academic knowledge but also real world life experience and be able to relate to people.
Yeah, we talk a lot of the people. I feel like I'm going funny every time I speak to you. A lot of the people that we speak to talk about transferable skills, and you know, so if at the moment you're working in a group and you're naturally the person who kind of leads that group, that's a leadership skill that you'll have in the future. If you're naturally sort of a caring person who looks after all the friends, that's going to lead to sort of these caring professions like teaching, like nursing, those sort of things where you're looking after the people. So it is really, really important to think about how your skills can transfer and what you're learning every single day, just being in school. Also then, if from any part-time work, or you might work in a shop and you might think, well, that's not what you want to do forever, but normally at some point you're going to be dealing with customers in the future. So that's all experience that's valuable, that will set you apart from someone else applying for those jobs in the future.
Exactly. And I think it's really important as well to think about careers more broadly. So people might want to go down a health route but might think, oh, I'm going to be a nurse or a doctor, and actually there's a lot more going on in health than that. So obviously I've talked about AHPs, but then there's also digital health. So maybe you're interested in IT but you're a caring personality as well. So something in digital health might be really good because you can combine those skills into something that actually is a massively rapidly growing area. So it's kind of thinking out, outside the box, beyond kind of nursing and doctor and dentist and things like that. So that's something else I'd recommend, having a look what else is out there.
I think with that as well, it's really important to consider that when you probably started your speech therapy degree, there was no such thing as digital health, and it's something that started to develop. So it's also keeping your mind open and being prepared to try different things, because the landscape for people's careers is changing so rapidly. Everybody's working from home now, where we weren't before. Everybody's using Microsoft Teams and Zooms to do the work, where before we'd all have proper meetings and sit down together. So it's about being adaptable, isn't it, as well, and resilient to those changing circumstances, and grabbing the opportunities when they come up.
Yeah, and learn from other people as much as you can. So if you along the way meet somebody who you think they seem to be really good at something, and you want to learn to be good at that, then speak to them and have the confidence to acknowledge where you need to develop your own skills, and go and reach out to people who you see doing certain things that you think, I want to be able to do that, or I need to improve in this. Nobody knows everything, nobody's great at everything, so acknowledging your strengths, but also recognize areas that you can develop in as well.
Amazing, thank you very much. So if anybody's got any more questions or anything, we've got your email address, so I can just drop you a line, and they're free to get in touch. And thank you so much for giving your time to us today. It's really helpful, and I know it's really going to help the people in our school.
No, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.